They didn't even call. Just a text. You're not invited to dinner. Logan's girlfriend isn't comfortable with you there. 3 hours earlier, I'd wired 120 to help my parents save their failing store. I stared at the message, read it again, then typed one word back. Okay. That was all it took. Not rage, not tears, just a switch. In silence, I opened my laptop. Clicked cancel on one payment. Then another. Then 157 more. I was done financing my own exclusion. On the shelf above my desk was a manila folder, faded, forgotten. It held the agreement I signed 10 years ago, back when I thought investing in family meant love. Turns out, it meant ownership, power. They thought they were organizing an intervention. They didn't know I still held the pen. And on Friday night, I'd be ready to write the final chapter. The last time I held a paintbrush, I was 18. It was a thick, flat brush stained with cobalt blue, favorite color, because it reminded me of freedom. That morning, I had opened an envelope from the California Institute of the Arts, full scholarship offer, glossy brochures, a new life waiting on the West Coast. I remember how I floated for days, convinced that this was me moment, my escape, my chance to be myself. My mom cried tears of pride. My dad shook my hand like I was an adult for the first time. And then came the family meeting. We sat in the living room, same one I'd later replace all the furniture in with my own money. My father placed a brochure on the coffee table like it was some sacred artifact, Wharton Business Program. For Logan. Your brother has real potential, he said, tone warm but final. This school could change his life, and we're short, just short enough that if you took a year or two off. I remember interrupting. I have a scholarship. This isn't about money. That's exactly what it's about, my mother chimed in. We just need time. Your art will still be there. Your brother only gets one shot. They called it family sacrifice. They said, we'll make it up to you. But they never did. I shelved my acceptance letter and applied to a local business program instead. I lived at home. I commuted to class. I worked nights. I graduated early and got a job in finance, the kind of job they could brag about to their friends. I climbed the ladder, made steady money, and every bonus, every raise, every financial win I had, they took as a win for the family. That's when it started. The quiet bleeding. I paid Logan's rent when he missed his first job interview. I covered Mom's credit card because the points are on your name anyway. I co-signed the truck loan for Dad to look more professional for store deliveries. Then came the business idea. High-end artisan gift shop, downtown, family legacy. They pitched it like it was ours. They used phrases like, you're a full partner, and our name, our brand. But deep down, I was just the silent backer, the check writer, the invisible arm, holding everything up while they posed for ribbon-cutting photos without me. The worst part? I let them. Because for years, I believed the lie that love meant service, that silence meant strength. That if I just gave enough money, time, dreams, they would finally see me, not as their safety net, but as their equal. I waited. For 15 years. And they gave that dinner seat to a girl my brother had known for 6 months. All it took was one text to undo everything. But what they didn't realize, what they never realized, was that while I'd buried my art, my independence, and my voice, I never buried my memory. And now, I was done waiting for recognition. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their majority shareholder. I hadn't planned to start that day. But betrayal has a strange way of sharpening your senses, turning every object around you into a reminder of how much you've given, and how little was ever truly yours. I sat at my desk, the mid-morning sun casting clean lines across the wood grain. My laptop screen blinked back at me, bank portal open, a long list of scheduled payments. It was like looking at the anatomy of my family's dependence. 5 arteries, all pulsing with my money. First, Logan's support package. 2, 500 auto-deposited on the first of every month. He was 31, still in school, part-time. Still hadn't finished his degree, still didn't have a job. Click. Cancel scheduled payment? I hovered. Then clicked confirm. A small green check mark appeared. I felt nothing. No guilt, no fear, just a strange stillness. Second. Mom's emergency credit card. The one she called just in case. Last month, she'd bragged about buying a full patio furniture set because it was on sale. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Third. Dad's Ford F-150 lease. Supposed to be for store deliveries. But I'd seen the fishing gear in the back seat more times than I saw actual inventory. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Fourth. The family cell phone plan. 4 lines. 1 bill. My bill. The irony of being excluded via text on a phone I paid for. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Fifth hand the hardest. Their retirement fund. Every month, I transferred a generous contribution to a joint account. I told myself it was about security and love. But I was building a future for people who hadn't made room for me in theirs. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I clicked. Cancel. Confirm. And just like that, the quiet, drip, drip, drip of sacrifice stopped. I leaned back in my chair, the silence in the room pressing in. It wasn't grief I felt. It wasn't even relief. It was clarity. Cold. Sharp. Clean. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't on call. No one was going to text me with just one more favor. No one could guilt me into one more emergency transfer. No more emotional blackmail in the form of family loyalty. What I'd just done felt irreversible. It was the kind of decision you don't come back from. And yet, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicking. I was rebuilding. Not a relationship. Not a family. Myself. My phone buzzed again, an alert from my bank, confirming the termination of all scheduled payments. The timing felt poetic. They had cut me out of dinner. I had just cut them out of my accounts. Funny thing is, they always thought they had the upper hand because they had the narrative. They controlled the story. Camille's so successful, thank God she helps us. But they forgot. I controlled the numbers. And in the end, the numbers always tell the truth. The silence didn't last long. Barely 12 hours after I hit confirm on the last payment, the storm rolled in right on cue. Logan called first. His name lit up on my screen like a fire alarm. I let it ring 4 times before answering, placing the phone on speaker and walking calmly to pour myself a coffee. "Camille, what the hell?" he blurted before I could say hello. "Mr. Collins just called. My rent bounced. I'm getting charged a late fee. You didn't send it." I stirred my coffee slowly. "Good morning, Logan." "Don't play cute. Did you forget? Is your account frozen or something?" "No, I didn't forget," I said plainly. "And my account is just fine." There was a pause. I could almost hear the gears turning. "You just didn't do it? On purpose?" "That's right." "Why, Camille, my car insurance comes out Monday. My grocery card's almost maxed. What am I supposed to do?" I sipped my coffee. "Sounds like a personal finance issue." There was silence on the line. Then I heard her voice, Chloe, whispering in the background like poison through a straw. "What's wrong with her? Ask her if she's having a breakdown." Logan's voice came back, brittle with panic. "This is about Friday night, isn't it? Look, Chloe just wanted a quiet evening. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I said nothing. "You're really going to nuke the whole family over a dinner invitation? Grow up." I exhaled through my nose, steady as stone. "Goodbye, Logan." And I hung up. Then blocked the number. One down. The next call came an hour later. "Dad." His voice was clipped, corporate, like I was an underperforming analyst in his quarterly review. "Camille, I just spoke to your brother. I need you to explain yourself." There's nothing to explain, I said. I've made some changes to my budget. Budget? He scoffed. Your mother's card got declined at the grocery store. She had to leave a full cart. That's humiliating. She has her own debit card, doesn't she? That's empty because we've been putting everything into the store. Then it sounds like you should reevaluate your business strategy, I said. He didn't like that. His tone dropped into a growl. We are partners. We made an agreement. I'm glad you brought that up, I said, almost smiling. Let's revisit that agreement soon. His voice turned from annoyed to threatening. You are playing with fire, Camille, and people who play with fire get burned. And he hung up. Strike two. That evening, it was Mom. She was already crying when I picked up. Camille, honey, please. What's happening? Your father's pacing like a madman. Logan's beside himself. I said nothing. I'd heard this song before, the fragile voice, the guilt-laced weeping. You've always been our strong one, she sobbed. We just don't understand. It was just a dinner. Chloe gets overwhelmed easily. She thought you might be judgmental. She said that? I asked, voice flat. My mother faltered. Then, she said you hold your money over everyone's heads, that if we ever stood up to you, you'd punish us. I didn't speak. And now you've proved her right. That was the moment. That exact moment I realized I wasn't just excluded. They were prepped to expect retaliation, like I was some tyrant waiting to explode. And they believed her. A cold silence bloomed in my chest. They hadn't just chosen her. They had rehearsed with her. Thank you, Mom, I said, my voice hollow. You've made things perfectly clear. I ended the call. Then, I stood in the middle of my apartment, letting the silence settle again. It was no longer quiet like grief. This silence had weight. This silence was strategy. Thursday afternoon smelled like old paper and polished wood. The kind of smell that only exists in offices where real power is exercised quietly. Diana Whitmore hadn't changed a bit. Her silver hair was coiled into a perfect knot. Her pen was the kind you refill with ink, not throw away. Her handshake was firm, steady, and far warmer than I expected. Camille, she said gently, when I saw your name next to the phrase, partnership agreement on my schedule, I knew something was coming. I sat across from her at a mahogany desk that probably cost more than my first car. I pulled the manila folder from my bag and placed it between us. I need to know, I said, my voice quiet but firm, exactly what this gives me the right to do. She didn't need to read it. She'd written it. I remember this file, Diana said, opening it with fingers that moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. You were just 26. Your father wanted a gift. I said no. Then he asked for a loan, low interest, long term. I said no to that too. She looked up, eyes sharp. Because I saw what they were doing. I saw you sacrificing everything. I saw them calling it love. I swallowed hard. I drafted this, she continued, tapping a section with her pen, to give you something no one could take away. A safeguard, a future, if they ever pushed you too far. She turned the paper to face me. Camille Turner, she read aloud, shall retain 51% controlling interest in Morgan Company Artisan Studio. Said majority stake includes all operational decisions, voting power, and the authority to hire and terminate minority partners, including immediate family members. I stared at the clause. The ink had faded a bit, but the words were clear. 51%. Not just a partner. The owner. A slow, steady realization settled into my spine. I hadn't just stopped their cash flow. I held the keys to the kingdom. Diana leaned back. They've forgotten who really built this house, Camille. You didn't just save them, you structured them. They signed this. Willingly. Legally. I nodded, pulse slow, mind fast. They're holding a family intervention tomorrow night, I told her. They think I'm coming to apologize. Diana smiled thinly. Sounds more like a shareholders meeting to me. I almost laughed. I need something, I said. Simple, official, a declaration, on letterhead, with your seal, something they can't argue with. She was already reaching for her dictaphone. I'll have it notarized by morning. You can pick it up before lunch. As I left her office and stepped into the Seattle air, the wind off the sound hit my face like a reset. All these years, I thought I was powerless. Turns out, I was the storm they never saw coming. I parked on the street, not the driveway. That felt important, like a line in the sand. In my hand was the manila folder, crisp and flat, like a sealed verdict. Inside, a notarized letter on Whitmore, Hale letterhead, embossed and irrefutable. I walked up the front steps of my parents' house like I was entering a courtroom, not a home. And in a way, I was. The door opened before I knocked. My father's silhouette filled the frame. "You're late," he said, his voice a low command. "No," I replied. "I'm right on time." The living room had been arranged like a tribunal. My father in his usual leather chair, his throne. My mother beside him, a tissue clenched in her hand like a prop. Logan and Chloe curled together on the love seat like a perfectly rehearsed performance. And across from them, seated upright with a notepad, was Aunt Valerie. Of course, the family enforcer. There was one empty wooden chair in the center of the room, facing all of them. The interrogation seat. I didn't sit. "We're all here tonight," my father began, "because we love you. But your behavior this week has been erratic, hurtful, and frankly destructive." My mother sniffled on cue. "I don't even recognize you anymore," she whispered. "You used to be so generous, so caring." Chloe blinked rapidly, eyes wide and innocent. "She's been crying for days," Logan muttered, stroking her arm. "She feels like this is all her fault." I almost laughed. Then came Aunt Valerie. "Camille, your parents gave you everything. This stunt? Cutting them off? It's cruel, vindictive. You've always been emotional, but this is pathological." I let the silence hang. Let their words dangle in the air like nooses they were too confident to see. And then I stepped forward and placed the manila folder on the coffee table. The sound of it hitting the wood made all of them flinch. "What's that?" my father barked. "More accusations?" "No," I said calmly. "It's a business document. You remember it, don't you? From 2013, the year I gave you, 85,000 to keep the store from going under." "That was a loan," he snapped. "No," I replied. "It was a capital investment, and this," I slid the notarized summary from the folder, "is a legal declaration of my position." My voice was steady, cold. Years of silence sharpened into a single edge. "In exchange for that investment, I received 51% controlling interest in Morgan Company Artisan Studio. That includes voting power, hiring and firing authority, and all final say in financial operations." My father's face drained of color. My mother dropped her tissue. "That's not possible," Logan said, his voice cracking. "You tricked them." "No," I said softly. "They just assumed I'd never use it." Chloe's mask fell instantly. "This is insane," she hissed. "You think a piece of paper makes you queen of the family?" I turned to her, expression flat. "You're not family. You're a guest, and your opinion doesn't factor into company policy." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked to Logan, but he said nothing. "I came here tonight willing to talk about feelings," I said, scanning the room. "But you made that impossible. You chose sides. You deleted me from the narrative." My voice cracked slightly, but I didn't stop. All I ever wanted was a seat at the table, not control, just inclusion. But you made it clear that love here is conditional, and power is the only language you speak. "So let's speak it," I said, pulling out one last paper. "As majority shareholder and executive director, I'm implementing new policies immediately." My father tried to interrupt. I raised a hand. "You too," I nodded at my parents. "Will remain on payroll as store managers. You'll receive fair market salaries, reviewed quarterly. Company credit cards are canceled. All expenses must be approved." My mother let out a wounded gasp. I turned to Logan. "You are not employed by this business, nor will you receive further personal support. I recommend getting a job." Finally, I looked at Chloe. And you? This isn't your story. You're dismissed. She stood up, furious, but no one moved with her. Even Logan stayed seated, dazed and pale. Aunt Valerie scoffed, grabbed her purse, and muttered, "You'll regret this." "No," I said. "I'll remember it." Then I picked up the folder, turned toward the door, and walked out. I didn't slam it. I didn't need to. The sound of everything falling behind me was louder than any door could make. The house was silent behind me. The kind of silence that follows a detonation. I didn't look back. Not at the window, not at the porch. I got into my car, set the manila folder on the passenger seat, and exhaled once deeply. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was clean separation. No one called that night. Not Logan. Not my parents. Even Chloe went radio silent. But by Monday morning, the shift was official. George, the only store manager who had ever treated me with basic respect, called me from the shop. "They're showing up," he said. His voice was low, like he was afraid the walls had ears. "Your parents, they've been here every day since Saturday. They're quiet. No more free lunches. No more yelling at staff." I opened my laptop. In my inbox sat 2 PDFs from Diana Whitmore's office of digitally signed employment contracts. No notes, no apologies. Just signatures. It was a quiet surrender. I reviewed the terms I'd helped draft. Title: Co-managers, Morgan, Company Artisan Studio. Salary: mid-range retail management rate, industry average. Benefits: none beyond payroll. No more family tabs. No more invisible debts disguised as help. Later that week, I received a credit card bill. Zero balance. For the first time in over a decade. I removed my father from the car lease account. The dealership called to confirm that the F-150 would be returned by month's end. I didn't even flinch. Then came Logan. Not a call, not a text. A notification. The auto transfer he tried to reinstate had been denied. Twice. He never tried a third time. The most surprising part wasn't the compliance. It was the peace that followed. My phone no longer buzzed with problems that weren't mine. No more, "Can you just cover this?" No more, "It's only temporary." For the first time in years, my money stayed where it belonged, with me. And something strange happened in that quiet. I started hearing myself again. I found my old sketchbook in a storage bin, wrapped in plastic next to tax documents. The first drawing I made was shaky, full of stiff lines. But the second was better. By the fifth, I'd lost track of time. I turned the guest room into a studio, bought paints without guilt. I wasn't replacing what I'd lost. I was reclaiming what had always been mine. I started waking up, not with dread, but with stillness. My home stopped feeling like a staging area and started feeling like a place I actually lived. Even George said it. "You know, this store actually makes money now." Of course it did. Parasites don't just drain accounts. They slow growth. They distort reality. And once I cut the lines, the whole system could finally breathe. This wasn't revenge. It was repair. A slow, deliberate untangling of the myth that family means obligation without limit. They could still be my parents. They just weren't going to be my creditors, my clients, or my captors anymore. The plane touched down in Florence just after noon. I hadn't told anyone I was leaving. No social media updates. No itinerary. No just-in-case messages. For the first time in my adult life, I went somewhere without asking for permission or announcing my usefulness. It was impulsive and quiet, booked, with the click of a mouse on a Friday night, wine glass half full, a soft jazz record spinning in the background. I stayed in a modest flat near the Arno River, just above a bakery that made the whole building smell like sugar and rising dough. Every morning, the bells from Santa Croce woke me gently. No alarms. No demands. I wandered without purpose. I took photos I never planned to post. I ordered food without checking my balance. No texts, no family group chats, no guilt. On my third day, I walked past a sign that read, Pottery Workshop, 1-day course, beginner's welcome. Something in me stopped. Not because I needed a new skill, but because I missed using my hands for something that wasn't survival. The studio was small and warm. Terracotta shelves lined the walls, filled with uneven bowls and imperfect vases. The instructor, an older woman named Alicia, spoke little English but smiled with her whole body. She placed a lump of wet clay in front of me and simply said, "Spin." It was awkward at first. My fingers were stiff, uncertain. But as the wheel turned, I stopped thinking, stopped solving, stopped bracing for impact. I just felt. The bowl I made was ugly, thick, lopsided. But it was mine. That night, I walked home with clay under my nails and the faintest ache in my shoulders. And for the first time in years, I slept without dreaming of numbers, bills, or names. When I returned to Seattle, I didn't go straight back to work. I repainted the walls in my guest room. I ordered canvases, real ones. I picked up a new set of oils, not the cheap kind, not for practice, for pleasure. The first paintings were messy, red, black, fast, emotional strokes. I didn't try to make anything beautiful, I just wanted to empty out everything I'd stored in silence. And then, one day, I added blue. Cobalt blue. The same shade from that scholarship letter all those years ago. My cousin Harper stopped by one afternoon and stood quietly in the doorway of my studio. "You look different," she said. "You look not tired." I smiled. That's because I finally stopped auditioning for a seat at a table I built. It came on a Tuesday afternoon. A number I didn't recognize. Local area code. No name. For a moment, I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then a soft, tired voice. "Camille, it's Logan." I didn't respond. Not right away. He rushed to fill the space. "I'm not calling to ask for anything," he said quickly. "I swear. Can I talk to you? For a minute?" I stayed quiet. Then, "You have one." He took a breath, and I could hear the weight behind it. Not rehearsed, not defensive. "I got a job," he said. "Warehouse work. I'm on my feet 10 hours a day, loading boxes. It's brutal. And 3 nights a week, I wash dishes at a diner on the South Side." He let out a humorless laugh. "It's the first time I've ever been tired for the right reasons." I said nothing. "She left," he added. "Chloe. Packed up and left while I was at work. Said I had no direction without the money. Took the TV you gave me." That got a flicker from me. I remembered that Christmas gift. She always liked the remote more than the shows. "I was angry at first," he said. "At her, at you, at Mom and Dad. But mostly, at myself." Another pause. "For years, I thought you wanted to do all that. That helping made you feel important. I never asked what it cost you." His voice cracked. "Camille, you gave me my life and I acted like it was mine by right. Like you owed me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't cry. But my hand gripped the phone tighter. "It doesn't fix anything," he added. "I know that, I needed you to hear it." Silence again. Not awkward. Just honest. "Thank you for calling," I said, my voice quiet. "I won't bother you again," he said quickly. Thank you." He was about to hang up when I stopped him. "Logan." "Yeah?" "Keep going." He was quiet for a second. Then, "Okay." He hung up. I sat there in my kitchen, surrounded by light and unfinished canvases, staring out the window. The city moved on around me. Life didn't pause, but something inside me finally did. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. I used to believe that being a good daughter meant disappearing, behind expectations, behind sacrifices, behind other people's futures. Now I know better. You don't have to give everything away to be worthy of love. You don't have to be generous to the point of extinction. Boundaries aren't betrayal. Silence isn't peace. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to come home to yourself. When I looked in the mirror that night, I didn't see the dutiful daughter. I saw the artist, the woman, the one who wrote her own ending. And finally, began again.